And action.
Excellent. Hello, ladies, and good evening. Welcome to the Austin chapter of InvestHER, all women investing in real estate. So tonight we have our speaker series, and I am your co-host. My name is Megan Flake, and this is our other co-host,
Vivian Yip.
Yeah,
no, Vivian Yip.
We are proud to host, and we love doing this. We each have our own passion about why we are here and what we are doing with InvestHER. So thank you so much for coming and investing in your faces. So we actually have a lot of shared common background. As you can tell, we both come from corporate America. We both have backgrounds in supply chain and data analytics, Lean Six Sigma, and networking. So kind of Lean Six Sigma really kind of falls out of corporate America really quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Megan, she's been in real estate since 2007. Her focus is not only just being a realtor, but she's also an investor specialist. So if anyone's looking for information from an investing standpoint, she is your gal. She's also more skilled than I am because she's got multiple asset classes under her belt. So you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, I'm in 3 different states. I'm in a few different asset classes, not just single family homes, but also commercial, multifamily, and triple net land lease. So I've gone through a few different paths and have made plenty of mistakes, but I've also learned from all those mistakes over the past 15 years of investing. Yeah.
I have to say I love that because if anybody knows commercial, it's super male dominated. So to have female representation, it's just refreshing.
That's right. Amazing.
Lastly, don't forget this, mistress negotiator. Right? She comes from GE. She has a really strong background in procurement, was it?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
So I did the logistics negotiating for the wind turbines, which is $100 million deals all over the world. Also doing parts purchasing and some labor. So a little bit of everything. And GE ranked me very high in the first 6 months in the top 10 talent of the company, 10% talent of the company. So they thought I was really good, really quick. So that is my strong suit. Our $500,000 house in Austin is not intimidating to me. And Vivian here has been investing she's been in real estate even longer than I have. She's been in real estate since 2004. She does a lot of different venues of real estate investing, short-term rentals, medium-term rentals, and she also flips, which is amazing.
With my husband. I'm not just doing myself.
Which is amazing. So if you are looking for corporate housing, corporate rentals, medium-term rentals, Vivian's definitely your person. She's your point of contact. If you want to learn how to do this, she's a mecca of knowledge, and she has so many resources to help and to guide and mentor and provide those skill sets and those tools.
I just want to say, I think of myself as a really good problem solver, and having a good problem solving skill and also having a really great network, it's really helped me blossom in this industry. Case in point, last week I helped a flipper prevent going into default. So that was, something that I feel really good about, she felt really good about, and it's just a win-win situation overall. So
Awesome.
if you ever have any questions or have a problem you want to solve, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Oh, one other thing is I do have another business, but I'm not talking about tonight, but it is Cash for Austin Homes. So that's what it is. It's Cash for Austin.
So this is our mission for InvestHER. We have meetups, podcasts, the only women in the room. We want to live a financially free and balanced life, and we do that by empowering women in real estate, because more money in the hands of women rises the entire world and all ships.
And if you didn't know, InvestHER is a global group, right? We're just a small little part of the chapter. I think on Meetup we have almost 1,000 members, and in Facebook we have about 668 members.
We are making a push to hit 1,000 members by the end of the year. So
awesome.
Please invite your friends to Meetup, because
yeah,
1,000.
And our goal is to keep these events free,
Yes.
right? And that, it's so helpful when we have great sponsors like Build a Supply Group. We had Amazing Realty before. I'm sponsoring the food this time, but next time it's gonna be somebody else. If you know somebody that's, I like to promote female-run businesses. So if you know someone that's a female business owner, especially in a male-dominated industry, I love having those people in to talk about their business and share with us, something about them. Okay. Lastly, if you're not already following, check out the Real Estate InvestHER on Instagram. Also the community, there's a greater community than just the Austin community, as well as the podcast. It's really good, super good content. And quick disclaimer, we are not attorneys, accountants, or financial advisors. All information shared during this InvestHER meetup or as follows is for educational purposes only. Always conduct your own investigation, analysis, due diligence, draw your own conclusions, and make your own decisions. Really quickly, you want to talk about the...
So I got to go to InvestorCon this year for the 2022 conference. It was amazing. It was their flagship, the first one they ever had. It was really great. I have an accountability group that came out of it, and meeting up with them on a regular basis has just really helped me to what I need to do to make the next step. And that brainstorming in the small group is fantastic, but also being inspired at InvestorCon was amazing. It was just so fantastic. So 2023, it's going to be in Scottsdale, and it's in May, something or another. I bought a ticket already. I already bought my hotel room as well. There is a special pricing right now, so you guys can still register for it. This is the nationwide. This is the actually worldwide InvestHER.
Yeah.
And the social media on the previous slide was also for the worldwide InvestHER. It was not the Austin chapter.
Yeah, we don't do podcasts.
We're not. I don't want to create content. So it's great. Any questions that you have about it or what it was like, I really enjoyed that they had so many different breakouts. Bigger Pockets does sponsor it, and I'm actually a preferred realtor for Bigger Pockets in Austin, so they don't award that slot to many people at all, but I am one of them. And it's great because they do a lot of inter-collaboration, because you hear from women, they're doing breakout groups for almost everything you want to do. So they do storage and house hacking, and also getting into land leasing or syndication, and you can go really deep into a subject matter and feel like you came away with so many notes, like how am I going to possibly debrief all of this, because in an hour and a half I just took away everything. So I really love the conference. If you can make it, I would strongly consider to put it into your 2023 goals.
Megan, what's the limited time offer? What is
That's the next slide, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
I don't know how much longer it's good for.
So November 15th.
There we go.
Yeah. So from what I learned, I met with the other InvestHER leaders at the Bigger Pockets conference, and we sat around and had lunch, and they told me about this beautiful place that they booked. So this is it. The entire place will be reserved for InvestorCon.
Wow.
So it's going to be amazing. I encourage you guys to go. You can hopefully, I don't know, back person. Can you guys
Ellen, can you get it?
I think
Can you
so.
scan that at all?
It's trying. It did.
Did it work?
It popped up. It's just not
Oh,
Loading.
loading.
Yes.
think it
Thank
works.
you very much.
I'm trying to make it really easy for people. I don't know.
My business card is on your seat. I have so many emails from InvestorCon because I've already pre-purchased, so they're asking like, do you know a friend, do you know whatever. If you can't scan this, email me and I will forward you my plethora of emails about the conference and the hotel, and
It comes up, it goes straight to registration.
perfect.
Yay! Yay!
Yes.
All right, without further, oh, sorry, go.
Without further ado, here I am. So I'm really excited to be here to present to you guys. You guys are probably one of the first to know about it, but I've created a brand in midterm rental hospitality called Hestia. And everyone's like, how do you pronounce that? What's Hestia? Well, Hestia is the Greek goddess of hearth, home, and hospitality. And I've always, as a young child, I always loved, like Aphrodite and Minerva and all those Greek goddesses. And I just thought the Hestia name was so unique and so different, and how can I make it more of a branding thing to just, it stands out. So I wanted to kind of share with you why I'm doing this, and you're the first to hear it. So the problem statement, and this is Apple presentation style. The problem statement is we have a oversaturated market of short-term rentals here in Austin. Last year they had 8,000 listings. This year they have 18,337 listings. So if you own a short-term rental and you're wondering why your prices keep coming down, your occupancy keeps coming down, that's why. Now, if you look at it from a data perspective, 90.3% of those short-term rentals are running as short-term rentals. You hit the time threshold of 30 days right here. These are the number of listings. There's less than 2,000 midterm rentals that are 30 days and more, okay, in Austin. We have also the top hosts that are running listings here in Austin. We have Vacasa, totally STR only. We have Wanderjaunt, also STR only. We have Hill Country Premier Lodging, also STR only. We have Evolve that does almost all STR. And then Hello Landing, you guys might have heard of that. They do midterm rentals, but they're in apartment buildings. I think they're an arbitrage program, possibly. So again, oversaturated market, too many illegal listings, and then the top hosts are also STR focused. So who's paying attention to midterm? There are some people, I'm not gonna argue with that, but they're not me. No, I'm kidding. But they're just, they're more national focused, and I wanted to really focus on Austin specifically. So problem statement number 2 is that the short-term rental market has holes in the calendar. So if you ever have someone that has an insurance claim, right? And they need to suddenly move out of their home, they wanna find somewhere where they can stay for a longer period of time. Well, when you look at your standard calendar, you're gonna have weeks open and then weeks closed, and then it's just hard to stay somewhere. And it's just, you know, if you're gonna stay somewhere, you wanna be able to just stay there rather than pick up everything and go to the next place and pick up everything and go to another place. So there's not a midterm dedicated site for Austin, and hotels are also very expensive, as well as short-term rentals, because many short-term rentals are not priced for longer stays. The potential clientele that I can see are all these different companies that are coming in, right? We all recognize these names. But in addition, we have people that are remodeling, insurance claims, digital nomads, people that are building a home, and snowbirds, right? And like the list goes on. Like if you just think outside the box, you can continue finding midterm rental candidates. Oh, the one big one that I missed here is traveling medical professionals.
Yeah.
I kind of left that one off though because their price point is a little bit different than what I offer.
Yeah.
So the opportunity, I like to say, and it's not something that I coined, but the riches are in the niches, okay? So I started a website called corporaterentalsaustin.com. There's nothing more SEO friendly than that, right? So I thought like, well, I could do a website, a marketing platform, but maybe I could also do a brand. There's gonna be your regular midterm rentals, but maybe there's those properties that are a little bit extra. So the Hestia properties are extra. So here's how it looks, right? So when you look at a brand position standpoint, you have Furnish Finder, right? People are paying $99 a year to Furnish Finder, only to realize that no one wants to pay more than $1,200 to $1,400 a month to stay there. But if you run like a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom home like I do, you need a little bit more than that to even sustain the property. Yeah. So then you have your Airbnbs, Wanderjaunt, Vacasa involved. They're on the high price short-term rental scale. And at Bigger Pockets conference, I trust their data, they said that 25% of bookings on Airbnb are 30-day rentals. That's a big chunk. But if you think about how much people are paying on, they're paying between 14 and 16%, the client is paying that much on top of the booking fee in order to make that booking. So what if we could redirect those clients subtly into another platform where they don't have to pay that booking fee, right? I think that brings up an opportunity there. So we have Hello Landing, and then this is where Hestia lands, right? We're a midterm rental at a medium price. I'm not aiming for a higher price. I'm not calling it luxury. I'm just calling it good quality. So it's like you can choose either a extended, what is it called, a extended stay hotel, right? Gross, right? Not for me, sorry. But maybe like a JW Marriott, not a Ritz-Carlton, but maybe a JW Marriott, something nice. So that's the Hestia brand. So The goal is to have a brand strategy, differentiate ourselves from all the other midterm rentals that are out there. When we have happy guests, we can get referral businesses. This next one is really important, is desaturation. When people are choosing to market their property on my platform, there's not gonna be competition, because at the same time, I don't want you coming on my platform and taking away my bookings. If you have a 2-bedroom and two bath in 78759, sorry, there's no spot for you. Maybe if you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, yes, we can talk about it, because you're now not competing with me. I wanna make sure I limit the number of people that are on this platform, so that it's not just a free-for-all, right? And then finally, this is a relationship business. I believe so much in relationships, because that's what has kept my midterm rental successful, right? I have 6 of my own and 2 that I manage for a friend, and we've had basically continuous coverage the entire time. I would say we had little gaps here and there, but occupancy about 95%. And this is, by building these relationships, it's been good for 3 years. So why don't I scale it out to other people that wanna work with me? So stay tuned for more. I actually got off a call with Furnish Finders on Wednesday, and they've invited me to be on their podcast. So we're recording next week. So there's things that I'm doing that I'm constantly doing to develop this business and this brand. So this one I didn't talk about the midterm rentals yet, but I did talk about short-term rentals and not the brand. I talked a little bit about flipping here, but here's where I really talk about the short-term rental versus midterm rental strategy. And then that one's more about flipping, but I do talk about midterm rentals as well. So I'm really, driving that demand to the website, working with insurance companies. I had a great call with one of the biggest global relocation companies in the world a couple weeks ago, and they love what we're doing with the brand. And they said they'll give our properties a few tries, and then if they like it, we'll enter their supply chain, right? So I think that's really promising. And as well as, insurance companies. So that's it. I hope you guys like what you see. All right, without further ado, I'm really pleased and excited to share with you our speakers tonight. Her name is Susan Geist. She is going to be presenting on growing up in rural Appalachia. I'm ruining this for you. She grew up in rural Appalachia, and she's going to teach us how she came from poverty, almost, right?
Yeah, in the mountains of
East Tennessee,
yeah,
and now she lives a financially free life with her husband. So, welcome.
All right, thank you, Vivian. It was awesome. Look forward to seeing what's going to happen with Hestia. It's very exciting. All right, so yes, I'm Susan Geist, and girls just want to have fun. So my agenda for this presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my backstory, my real estate investing journey, how I achieved financial freedom, and then I'm going to blow your mind by telling you how I reduced my federal tax bill from $137,000 to $6,500 while increasing my income using real estate, and then I'll share some resources at the end. My disclaimer, I love investing and tax data, but I am not a certified financial professional. This is about my situation, so don't take all of this as personal investment advice. Just do your own due diligence. All right, so a little bit about the FIRE movement. So this is, it stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. I feel like the retirement is kind of a misnomer here. A lot of people think of retirement as being old and then you just kind of sit around and watch TV, but really it's about being able to not have to sell your time for money anymore, being able to do what you want. And you kind of have to adopt this mindset of prioritizing what's most important to you. And so that'll help you with like your current spending, what you should be spending money on, what you shouldn't, and then also your future goals when you're looking forward. So when you're saying, okay, well, I'm not going to buy this fancy car so I can whatever in the future, right? So just kind of keep your mind around that. And you can really put your money to work through investments. You always want your money to be working for you in some way. And really, this is moving from the professional wage earning class to the asset owning gentry class. So here in the US, you know, you're told you need to go to college, take out a ton of loans, and then go and work for someone until you're 65 or 70, you know, pay your dues. But there's this whole other class of people, right, that own assets. These are, you know, they have the real estate, and they're making money without having to sell their time to somebody. And even, you know, when you watch like a romantic movie or whatever, they're always like, oh, go find the partner that's a doctor or a lawyer. They're not like, go find the guy that owns 15 Jiffy Lubes. That's what you need. That's where the real wealth is. I mean, if your doctor dies, or if you're a doctor and you die, you're not making any more money. Those 15 Jiffy Lubes are still there. So it's not as respected here in the US, but you know, it's often much more lucrative to be up in that gentry class. So it's kind of something to think about. What would you do if you had full control over your time? All right, so my roots. This is the lovely, very contaminated town of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, in the mountains of East Tennessee. It's known for refining uranium during World War II. The whole town is radioactive. A lot of people end up with rare cancers and beryllium poisoning. So my dad worked at the National Laboratory there, and it's kind of a strange place to grow up, very unique. All the houses, because it was built so quickly, it's like the secret city. All the houses are A's, B's, C's, D's, and then the multifamilies are E's. So they're all these 5 models of houses all through the city that were built in the early 40s, super quickly. So it's kind of a strange looking town. So this is my why. So that's my mom and me. So my mom was in an abusive relationship with my dad. He was extremely emotionally abusive to her, and she had no way out because she didn't have finances of her own. She was a stay-at-home mom. She had gone straight from college to, you know, getting married, having me and my brother, and so she was kind of stuck, and she ended up passing away, and it was a very sad situation. And so I made the decision that I never wanted to be beholden to a bad person or a bad situation because of finances, and I never wanted to see other women having to be beholden to anything bad because of finances. And then I also feel like Megan alluded to, that, you know, the more wealth women have, the more control we have over politics and regulations, and, you know, no matter your opinion on it, I feel like women should at least be making the decisions about our bodies, and we should be able to decide, do we want our kids shot at school? You know, and I feel like if we were controlling more of the money, we'd have more of a say. If the CEO of Amazon was a woman and she came up and said, we're not gonna operate in any state where women don't have rights, I don't think this would be an issue. And so I wanna see women move up. Right now, women, you know, we're 50% of the population, we only control 30% of the assets. So we have a long way to go, and I'm so happy you guys are here and also passionate about that too. All right, so my backgrounds, I have an undergraduate degree in math. I have a master's degree in environmental toxicology. I graduated with tens of thousands of dollars in student loans, like most people. And landed a job in Washington, D.C., a very lucrative federal government job making $42,000 a year. And I spent many hours right before that job crying in banks and credit unions because no one would give me a car loan. And I needed a car to get to D.C. for my first job. And so, you know, that was kind of my first introduction into the real world and crap, you know, I've got to get my finances together and figure out how I'm not going to be dependent on other people. So I did this kind of weird house hacking strategy. So most people talk about house hacking where you're like running out of room in your house to get your lodging paid for. I kind of did the other way around. So my first 2 years at work, I was actually in a training program that had me doing details all over the country. So I was out of DC a lot of the year. And the assumption was that I would keep an apartment in DC And then whenever they sent me out on detail, they paid for my housing and my per diem. So I got food and all that covered. So I did not keep an apartment in DC. When I was there, I just found like rooms on Craigslist. I had an airbed. I would blow up the airbed. I would bring my cat in, and that was all my furniture. And then when they sent me out on a detail, I'd pack up my airbed and deflate it and go off on my way. And so that allowed me to save like half of my salary for each of those years.
Wow.
And so I was able to accumulate quite a nest egg that way. And then my last detail was actually here in Austin in 2007, and that's how I ended up here in Austin. All right. So my real estate journey. So by 2008, I had actually saved up enough money to put a down payment on a home here in Austin. Things were not nearly as expensive as they are now. And the market had crashed, and I got the first time homebuyer credit. So things were aligning perfectly for me, and I got this beautiful 886 square foot, 1936 fixer-upper home. But it was mine. I was excited. Actually married my husband the next year, Brian, and we rented out that house and took a year off and went backpacking around the world. This is us paragliding in the Philippines. Cool. And then, so we had our first son in 2011, and I bought my first duplex in 78704 in 2012, and it was a 3-2 on each side. And then I got this crazy idea that we should move to Raleigh to be closer to some of my relatives, and it was terrible. We came back to Austin. And so we sold this house and we moved to Raleigh and made money off of it. And then we sold our Raleigh house, made money off of it. So we came back, we bought a 1958 fixer-upper and actually lived in our duplex for a while we were working on that. And then in 2018, we purchased 2 duplexes in Elgin. And in 2020, right before COVID, we did a 1031 exchange. So that's where you sell a property and you buy another property and you defer the taxes. And we actually did a 1-for-2. So we sold that original duplex that we had bought, and we bought a 4-plex in Bertram. And we also bought a short-term rental beach condo, a fixer-upper on Padre Island. And, you know, if I had known that real estate prices were gonna shoot up like 25%, I would not have done this. But at the time, it made a lot of financial sense, and it still hasn't been a bad decision. So we're cash flowing the same amount that we were on the duplex on the 4-plex, and we essentially got the beach condo for free. Paid cash for it out of what was left over. So we fixed it up. This is the before and the after. And it was a great place to vacation during COVID when we couldn't go anywhere else. So since that fixer-upper went so well, I thought it would be fun to get a single family house to fix up and rent in 2021. That's a picture of it there. It's in 78745. And of course we got hit, like I'm sure a lot of you did, with the supply chain shortages, the labor shortages, and it just dragged out for over a year. During that time, we also refinanced our primary home. This is what it looked like after we fixed it up. It still has its 1950s charm. But we pulled out $400,000 at a 2.5% interest rate. And we were able to take that money and invest passively in real estate syndications. So we're invested in self-storage, mobile home parks, apartments, a hotel, and car washes. And we're averaging about 6% return. So we've got a really nice spread there on that money. So we were getting close to finishing our renovation. There you can see the inside of it. And the neighbor started harassing us about a tree in the backyard, threatening to sue us. He took these like metal bars and tried to knock our fence down. And so we decided just to sell when we finished that. So it was an unintentional flip for us, but we held it for over a year. And that's actually important, and I'll tell you why when we get to the tax section, because we're doing something interesting with that. So we used the profits from that flip. We made about 70,000. We sold right before the market went down. We were super, super lucky. We used the profits to buy a short-term rental cabin in East Tennessee in the Smokies to take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole, which I'll also talk about a little bit later. Loophole is kind of a misnomer. It's just the way it's classified, but that's what it's called if you're searching for it online. All right, so currently we are technically financially independent. We have 11 properties and many limited partnerships in commercial real estate assets. We got a 7-figure nest egg, 6-figure annual passive income. Hopefully we'll be leaving our W-2 jobs sometime around the end of the year. There's us in Egypt over spring break this past year. So like Megan said, you know, I made a lot of imperfect decisions along the way, but you just gotta get in the game. You know, you just keep going and just keep moving forward and stay diversified, and you know, you'll come out typically okay on the other side. All right, so this is the chart they typically show for financial freedom. And so this is just if you were gonna put money in an account, how much money you would need to have saved up to be able to retire, to live off of. So the rule of 25 and the 4% rule are essentially the same thing, just flipped around the other way. So you need to have 25 times your planned annual spending saved. You can withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year. So that comes out to needing $30,000 in savings for every $100 a month you're gonna spend. And so it's an interesting way to kind of think of your spending. So what can you cut? What's really important to you? Is it worth $30,000 in savings to have that? But the great thing about real estate is you can offset the total amount needed through other income, such as, you know, rentals. You can also do stock dividends, interest, little side hustles. And this was something that was, it kind of held me back at first because I was like, oh, I'm gonna need to save, you know, millions of dollars, or I'm gonna need to find one particular thing that replaces all of my income. But what I've done is build it up piecemeal, you know, a couple $100 here coming in, a couple $100 there, and eventually you start building it up and it replaces your income. And I'll show you my table a little bit later on. All right, some ways you can generate this passive income. Interest on savings and bonds, and I wouldn't have even had this on here last year. But
Right, it's so high now.
yeah, I mean, the rates are going up. I'm getting 3% on my savings account now, which is crazy. Stock dividends, of course, real estate rentals, real estate investment trusts, they tend to pay good dividends. Real estate syndications. You can also rent your home less than 14 days per year without having to report the income to the IRS.
Just the tax loophole. The Augusta.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
That is the Augusta.
It's called the Augusta.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I never knew that it was called that. But yes, and it's great here in Austin because you can rent your home out for like ACL or South by Southwest and make a ton of money, and you don't have to report it to the IRS. Online courses, ebooks, for maybe the younger folks, sponsored social media posts, affiliate marketing. You can rent your car on Turo. I actually know people doing that. And then royalties and other passive business interests. So my mother-in-law gets oil fracking royalties every month. Yeah, she lives in Louisiana, and they, I guess, did some drilling on her land, so she still gets a ton of money every month.
Who's your 3% savings with?
Capital One performance savings, yeah. All right, so this is my chart. This is how I generate my passive income every month. So I've got my savings, I've got dividends from stocks, I've also got dividends from municipal bonds. So municipal bonds are great because you usually don't have to pay federal taxes on them. So that's a really good place to put your money. Mine earn 5.5% to 6%. So they're pretty good. And then my 2 Elgin duplexes, my 4plex, and this is my net. So this is after I pay the mortgages on all of these properties. My beach condo, my cabin, I just bought the cabin in July, so I'm still getting it up and running, but I am at least making a little bit of money so far. And then these are all my passive investments here. So Wellings Fund, that's self-storage, mobile home parks, light industrial, Good Egg is apartments, and then I've got 2 apartment complexes I'm invested in Houston, a hotel in Reno, which I'm afraid I'm gonna lose my money on. I actually use that as an example in one of my courses for like red flags to look for when you're doing a passive investment, because I invested in it before I knew what I was doing, and I'm not sure how it's gonna turn out. But I'm making a little bit on it right now. I'm invested in a car wash fund. Those are actually doing really well. And a real estate debt fund, which is a little different than these other ones. So there's no upside with that one. So a lot of these, they'll sell them at the end and you can participate in the profits. So the real estate debt fund is really just a debt fund. So they loan money out to house flippers, and I make 6% on what I have invested in there. I can pull the money in and out at any time. So it's not locked in like a lot of these other ones are usually locked in for 5 to 10 years. So that's actually been a really good opportunity for, sort of transitional money when you're in between deals. Just throw it in there.
Can I ask how, well, you're limited partner on these bottom bill dwellings, Good Egg, on the order of like 50K, 100K to get these monthly distributions?
Most of them are 100K.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But the debt fund, the minimum is only 25,000 to get into that, which is nice. So you can have your balance as low as 25,000.
What's the name of the RE debt fund?
So it's through passiveinvesting.com. It's a group out of Columbia, South Carolina. I really like them. I also, the car wash fund is through them. And they've been really good to work with. All right. Now we're gonna talk about taxes, everyone's favorite subject. But really, tax optimization is one of the most essential tools for growing your wealth. You can get way more benefit from saving $5,000 a year on your taxes than you can from raising the rent at one of your properties by $100 a month. I had to learn this the hard way by paying some really big tax bills. But I'm gonna go over 2 important concepts that you need to know as a real estate investor related to taxes. The 3 tax buckets and depreciation. All right, so the 3 tax buckets. So this is how the IRS separates your income and losses on your taxes. So we've got active, portfolio, and passive. So in this active bucket, we've got your W-2 income, we've got active business income. So this is like if you have an LLC, it's bringing in money, sole proprietorship. If you're doing Roth conversions, that's gonna go in this bucket. If you're doing a short-term rental that is self-managed, it's gonna go in this bucket. And this is the short-term rental loophole, because the IRS considers it a business if you are managing it yourself. And this can save you a lot of money on your taxes. Active flips, so if the IRS considers you a flipper, your flipped properties are actually considered business inventory rather than capital gains, so they're gonna appear here in the active category. So if you flip full-time, if you flip multiple times a year, if you're doing short-term flips, typically the IRS will consider you a flipper. If you just do like one every now and then, you can get away with putting it in another bucket. And then if you have real estate professional status, your activities will go in this active bucket. So that's, you can't have a W-2 job and claim that status. You have to have 750 hours or more in your real estate activities. You have to be managing all of your rental properties yourself. So it's actually kind of challenging to justify that on your taxes. All right, portfolio income. So that's gonna be your stock and bond sales, your dividends, interest coming in, and your sales of non-business assets. So if you sell your house and you're over the $500,000 tax-free gain, that's gonna go in this bucket. If you sell like a classic car and you make a bunch of money, that'll go here. Any kind of property that you have that was never actually used as a business, that's gonna go in this bucket. All right, and your passive income. So this is typically where your real estate's gonna go, especially if you have a W-2 job. So rental real estate, your real estate syndication income, any royalties that you get, any passive income that's reported to you on a K-1 form, at the end of the year. And then short-term rentals if you have a management company. So what happened to us in 2021, we had a bunch of income in this category and some income in this category and a whole bunch of losses in this category, and we were not able to combine any of them. And we got a massive tax bill that we were not expecting. So I got smart about how to move the categories and play a little shell game and significantly reduce my tax bill. But first we have to talk about depreciation. Because it's a very important concept in real estate. It's one of the biggest advantages of owning real estate, being a real estate investor. So depreciation allows you to recover the cost of a physical business investment on your tax return. So essentially it's a paper loss that you get to take on your tax return. So the standard real estate depreciation is 27.5 years if it's residential, or 39 years non-residential for the building value. So you take the building value, you divide it by whichever of those numbers applies, you get to take that off of your taxes as a loss every year. Even though it's not a real loss, right? It's just a paper loss, a depreciation paper loss. So you can also do this interesting thing where you complete a cost segregation. So you identify all property-related costs that can be depreciated over 5, 7, and 15 years. So you're essentially going through your property and identifying the things that wouldn't actually last 27.5 or 39 years, like your appliances, the flooring, sometimes even the roof, things like that. And you group those into those categories. So in 2018, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed this regulation that said you can take 100% bonus depreciation until 2022 on your taxes. So that allows you to add up all of this stuff in the 5, 7, and 15 years categories and deduct that in the first year of owning your property. So we did this on our cabin this year and got about $160,000 that we're gonna be able to deduct from our active bucket, which is our W-2 income.
Wow.
So it just takes it straight off of there. Unfortunately, starting in 2023, the bonus depreciation is going to decline 20% each year. So next year, you can only take 80% of the depreciation up front, which is still good. I think, it's still definitely beneficial to do that. Something you do have to think about that a lot of people don't mention is the depreciation recapture tax rate, which is typically 25%. So it's higher than capital gains. So if you're not going to hold a property very long, you probably don't want to take the bonus depreciation. You really have to think about, okay, what am I going to do with this money that I have now? How can I deploy it to make more than I'm going to have to pay with that higher tax rate on the back end? So a little bit of math, but we can do math, because a penis is not required to do math. So yeah, we have to think about the time value of money there, because of course, $50,000 now is worth more than $50,000 10 years from now. But the big takeaway from this is it's creating big paper losses on your tax return. This is how people like Donald Trump pay no taxes. All right. My 2021 federal tax bill was $137,000 on $550,000 in income, and I just about had a heart attack having to do my taxes. And they sent me, actually just this week, another bill for interest penalties, quarterly interest penalties. I paid what I was supposed to pay, but then they said, well, we should have had that money a little bit earlier. So, yes, that hit with another $800 I had to send them. My 2022 federal tax bill, I'm expecting it to be around $6,500 on $580,000 in income, so 1.1%. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. All right, so here's my active bucket, and I've rounded some of these numbers and simplified it a little bit just to show the concepts. So we'll say me at 100,000 W-2, my husband 200,000 W-2, so that's our positive we've got sitting in the active bucket. So what are we taking off of that? We're gonna take off $20,500 each for our 401k contributions, because that is pre-tax. $7,750 for an HSA contribution, which is also pre-tax. $5,000 for dependent care FSA contribution, which is pre-tax. Here's my cabin, bonus depreciation here, $163,013 I get to take off. $3,000 for tax loss harvesting, which I'll talk about more in the portfolio income, and then our standard deduction of $25,900. So we're left with $54,337 in that category.
That's pretty amazing.
That's great, yeah.
All right, portfolio income. So as I mentioned, we had this failed flip that we did, it's unintentional. So that actually ends up in this category because it was never used as a rental. We're not flippers, we both have W-2 jobs. We intended on renting the property out, and that's typically what you have to show to the IRS, that you had an intention to rent it out, something happened and you didn't. So it's gonna go here in our portfolio income. So we've got $70,000 long-term capital gain here. So we've got about $9,000 in dividend income, and then we've got about $1,200 in our tax-free municipal bond income, so we don't have to pay taxes on that. So, I happen to luck out that the stock market has gone down so much this year. This is a benefit of also having a stock portfolio in addition to your real estate. So I went into my stock portfolio and did some tax loss harvesting. And you've probably heard about this before, a lot of people do it right at the end of the year, because you can offset your capital gains by doing this. It's a paper loss you take on your stocks. So I sold stocks at a $70,000 loss, actually did $73,000, and bought right back into the market. So I had the same amount of exposure, same dollar amount of exposure. You can't buy exactly the same thing, but I actually bought VTI, which is the Vanguard Total Index Fund.
Yeah.
I sold individual stocks that I had, bought VTI, so I had the same amount of exposure, but now I have a $73,000 paper loss on my tax return that I can use to offset the gain from that unintentional flip that I sold. So you can carry over $3,000 to your active tax bucket. That's the max that you're allowed to carry over is $3,000. So anything else, you gotta keep it in your portfolio bucket to use against your capital gains.
Susan, can I ask you a question about that?
Yes.
So you said you sold individual stocks and then bought an index fund, but if I sold one index fund, I couldn't then buy into a different index fund, is that right?
So it depends on whether it tracks the same index. If it tracks a different index, then it's fine. And a lot of them are a little bit different. So if you sell like a Vanguard and you buy like an iShares, a lot of times they're actually tracking something a little bit different,
Okay.
and it's fine. Yeah, because you can't sell VTI and buy VTI right back. Yeah.
But I didn't know if I could sell VTI and then buy a different Vanguard total money market fund that,
Yeah.
is slightly more balanced and
You
international.
could buy
or-
VU, S&P 500 instead of VTI,
Okay.
things that
I
are
could do
pretty
that?
close.
Wow, okay.
As long as it's not tracking exactly the same index, they've said it's fine.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
So does it have to, as long as it's happened within the same calendar year, it's
Right.
okay? It doesn't have to be back-to-back transaction?
But it's nice to do it as a back-to-back, so you get the same amount of exposure, just in case the stock market drops a whole lot,
right,
or
yeah.
increases a whole lot. All right, and our passive income bucket, so we had $160,000 in rental income, about $40,000 in syndication income, and then we were able to write all that off with depreciation. We have a bunch of bonus depreciation coming in from these syndications. They've passed that along to the investors. Expenses, we had 125,000 carryover losses from 2021 that we couldn't tap into because we had stuff in the wrong buckets. And then also this strange thing, we inherited a work truck from my father-in-law who passed away from COVID. And so you can actually depreciate a work vehicle 100% in the first year, as long as you use it for 5 years for business purposes. So we put it in this category. Our tax strategist actually said, the best place to put it would be here and say we're using it on the short-term rental, and we can subtract it from the active, but our short-term rental is in Tennessee. So I was like, if we could audit it, it would be great.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna know we're not using this truck in Tennessee. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in our passive bucket. Alright, so yes, we ended up with 54,000, 9,000, and 0 in our 3 buckets.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go back to the slide.
Yes.
Okay, so you made a $70,000 loss on your stock portfolio,
Yes.
and you're deducting the 3,000 of it on your active income as well?
So 73,000.
You made 73,000.
So I took a $73,000 paper loss on my stock portfolio.
And you did 70 in your portfolio and 3 in your active.
Right, because you can only put 3,000 in your active. That's the max.
It carries until that 70 is gone, right?
Yeah,
For
so
5 years.
you can carry over losses in these categories. You just can't usually combine them. Sometimes you can combine portfolio and passive. When you sell rental property, that'll be on Schedule D with your portfolio capital gains and losses. So you can do tax loss harvesting typically also against sales of rental properties, since they're both on your Schedule D. So if you think about, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the schedules, but Schedule C would be up here. Schedule B and D is gonna be here. So that's like your interest, dividends, capital gains, and then Schedule E is in your passive bucket. Alright, here's what we ended up with. So our active bucket, $54,337, which puts us in the 12% tax bracket. Yay! So our tax bill is around $6,500. So it's a 10% tax bracket, you know, it's incremental, right? For the first like $12,000, and then the rest is taxed at 12%, so about $6,500. We've got this dividend income in our portfolio bucket. So the tax rate on dividends is 0% if you are married filing jointly, and you make less than $80,800. So got a $0 tax bill there, and then we zeroed out our passive. So our total gross income was $580,000. Total net income $63,337. Total tax bill is $6,500, 1.1%.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Amazing.
I have a question. So how did you figure this out? Like, did you tax person? Like, do you just study this and figure this out, or is your tax person brilliant and goes, okay, this is what we need to do?
So I do my own taxes. I do talk to a tax strategist when I have questions. So you can pay, it's actually 2 different services, like having a CPA do your taxes and having consulting with a CPA or tax office is something different that you can pay for.
So you do your taxes?
I do my
yourself?
own taxes. And I knew we had a big problem in 2021. So I was like, we've gotta fix this. We're paying this incredible tax rate, huge tax bill. We're severely impacting our wealth growth, moving forward. And Trump kept saying only stupid people pay taxes. So I was like, okay, well, I gotta do something. But yeah, and it is frustrating because a lot of CPAs don't understand how these real estate deductions work. Most CPAs specialize in small businesses. They do small business accounting. They're focusing mainly in this active category. Sometimes they'll recommend tax loss harvesting if it's not too late. If they're looking at your taxes before the end of the calendar year, which usually they're not. But if they are, they may recommend tax loss harvesting if you have capital gains. But yeah, even real estate specific CPAs, a lot of them don't understand how this stuff works. So, I mean, my goal is that you guys would be able to start understanding some of it, to be able to either do your own taxes or at least look at what you're getting from your CPA and say, okay, this doesn't look quite right, or maybe we can move this in a different bucket, and really start getting a handle on it yourselves rather than just relying on these people that a lot of times don't have all the education about it. Oh, yeah.
How did you become educated about it? Are there resources that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I'm in this really good, it's a tax strategy, real estate strategy group on Facebook. I think it's called Tax Smart Real Estate. It's run by Hall CPA. Highly recommend that. There's people just constantly asking these kinds of questions. I have, this scenario, I wanna take this bonus depreciation, I have a duplex, half of it's a short-term rental, could I do that? The bonus depreciation, questions like that, and so you can learn a lot that way. They're who I work with my strategy
Tax strategy.
too. Yeah.
Can you repeat the name?
I think it's Tax Smart Real Estate Investors. It's with Hall CPA.
Yeah, there's a really good NOLO, like, taxes 101 for real estate investors or something, but that's like how I learned the very basics of these buckets. It's like taxes for dummies for real estate investors or something like that, but it's that NOLO series, and they update it every year, which is great. And Bigger Pockets sells a couple of tax specific
Yes, and I've read
books
those.
as well,
Those are
which
really
also
good.
really helpful.
Yeah. I think those are by Amanda Hahn,
Yeah.
the ones that Bigger Pockets publishes, and I have both of those. Alright, here's an even better strategy. This is how people often pay no taxes. So if you are in a couple and one of you has a W-2 job and the other one does not have a W-2 job, it is most beneficial for the non-W-2 person to get real estate professional status. And that allows you to take everything that you saw over there in the passive bucket and move it to the active bucket. So all of your partner's income will now be offset by all this depreciation that you're getting from your real estate, which is awesome. You can also, technically, once you have real estate professional status, do a grouping and group your syndications in and move that whole set over to active. Even though your syndications are passive, the IRS will allow you to do a grouping. And once you group them, you can't ungroup them. So you have to think about, is this what we're gonna continue doing for the future? If you plan on going back to work, it would be bad to group them. But it can be extremely lucrative at that point because you tend to get a lot of bonus depreciation off of those syndications because they're buying like giant apartment buildings, that have 100 fridges and things like that. So this is an extremely powerful strategy. I know a lot of people that don't pay any taxes because they do this.
Quick question, and by that you mean being able to prove that you work 700 hours?
Right, so
Correct.
getting the real estate professional
Doesn't matter,
status.
and it doesn't matter if you have other 1099 work, does it?
Depends on whether you can prove to the IRS that you've put in 750 hours and you're doing more real estate than anything else, substantially more real estate.
Time log satisfies that requirement though.
Okay.
You still need to show 51% of your income is from real estate.
And so to do the short
Of
term,
the individual or the couple, if you're married?
just the individual.
Of the individual, got it.
And so to get the short-term rental, active status, you can have a W-2 job, but you do have to put in 100 hours on your short-term rental and substantially more than anybody else, which really isn't hard to do, especially if you're doing any kind of renovations on your short-term rental, if you're managing all like the Airbnb and Vrbo and Price Labs, any kind of software you might be using. I haven't had a problem. We bought it in July, and I've already hit the 100 hours on ours, and I manage it from here, and it's in Tennessee, and it hasn't been a problem.
So, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
can you repeat that? So by doing 100 hours on a short-term rental, what does that do?
So that will put it in the active category,
In the active?
as long
Got
as
it.
you don't have another manager working on it, so you don't
Got
have
it,
like
got it.
Evolve or whatever. If you're managing it yourself, you do 100 hours, and substantially more than anybody else.
Sure.
So, like with our cleaners, so our cleaning company has different people that come in and rotate. So if you had like one cleaner that was coming every single time, the IRS might look at that, but ours has different people that come in, and so none of them are doing more than I'm doing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Different cleaners for that. So by saying professional, you're just saying how many hours, you don't have to like get a real estate license.
Right, you don't have to be a realtor.
Professional is
Right.
like proved by the hours.
Right.
Okay.
And the IRS they've kind of gone back and forth on whether some other professions apply to this, like being a plumber or an electrician. There's there's mixed rulings on that. Yeah. So, there you go, real estate can be a very powerful tax tool. Alright, so this is my website. So I started doing classes and coaching. I'm very passionate, as I said, about empowering women with their own finances, their own education. I feel like this is what we need to get our finances in order. We need to know what's going on with our investments and how to grow our generational wealth. These are 2 classes I have coming up in January and February. So I teach Sensational Investing Level 1. It's 4 live weekly virtual sessions. So this is sort of an intro to investing, so how to set up a diversified portfolio. We'll look at determining your risk tolerance, optimizing your retirement contributions. So should you be in a 401k? Should you be doing a Roth? Should you be doing a backdoor Roth? How to generate passive income, and exploring basic real estate investing opportunities. These will be ones that have a lower barrier to entry, like real estate investment trusts, house hacking, things that you don't need to have like $100,000 to get started in. And then level 2 will run in February. So this is a much higher level investment education. So we'll start looking at how to evaluate individual stocks, implement a lot of these advanced tax strategies that I showed. We'll look at criteria to evaluate passive real estate investing opportunities, like how to read PPM. And we'll also look at a little bit of infinite banking opportunities. So this is when you borrow against your own assets without having to draw down the asset. So a common example of that is HELOC, home equity loan, line of credit. So you're borrowing against your house, but you don't have to sell your house to do that. You can also do that on your stock portfolio. So that's a way that I actually pull a lot of cash. So I'll borrow against my stock, so I don't have to sell my stock when the stock market is down, but I can borrow against it. I borrowed some at like 6.5% recently, because I needed some cash. And then universal life insurance, which I personally am not a big fan of, but we can look at it. Everyone I know who's a big fan of it is also a broker, so that should tell you something. And then I also do like individual coaching, and you can book that on my website if you just want to chat for an hour about strategies, tax strategies, your personal situation. I'm happy to do that.
What's your hourly rate?
I think it's 165. That's what I have set. So, yeah, there's my website. All right, I really love this quote. Someone with half your IQ is making 10 times as you because they aren't smart enough to doubt themselves. I think a lot of women get stuck in this, but just keep this in mind. You know, we're all very capable, and you guys are obviously very passionate about this, passionate about building your own wealth and building your family's wealth. And so I believe you guys can do it. I think we all can do it. We can get to that 50% or more of the world's wealth and start taking back some of our power.
Questions?
Yeah. Where to start?
What was the easiest tax loophole that you found to really get the snowball moving forward on something that was just easy, and you're like, if you could pick up one thing today from
Maybe doing some tax loss harvesting, because I mean, you don't have to do it in that amount that I did, and you can just do $3,000 of it, put it over against your W-2 income. So, yeah, that's probably just sort of low-hanging fruit that you can do before the end of the year.
You mentioned that you hope in 2 to 3 years to quit your W-2. Do you?
End of the year.
End of the year.
Oh, end of the year.
Yeah, maybe January.
Yeah. Is your plan to move to mostly passive at that point, or do you want to also do active?
So we'll be bringing in, as I showed, a fair amount of passive income. I'm hoping to do more of the classes and the coaching just because I'm very passionate about it. You know, I don't think I'm gonna be making 6 figures a year off of it, but you know, it's gonna be one piece of that passive income, right? Make a little bit here and there, and yeah, so that's probably what I'll do. Yes.
I've been thinking a lot about the real estate syndication kind of opportunities, and know very little about it so far. So if you had just like a couple of key little nuggets of wisdom or like potential pitfalls to avoid, what would you say?
I would say don't use these big online brokers like CrowdStreet.
Okay.
That has
I agree.
been a downfall. Typically, you'll find deals on there that the syndicators, for some reason, their personal investors were not sold on, and so they brought it to CrowdStreet. And CrowdStreet is just kind of a marketplace, and so they're not gonna make sure that the syndicator stays in touch with you or provides updates. Like there's just really no backing there from them, and so that hotel deal that I did, that was a CrowdStreet deal, and it's and then another thing you want to look for right now in these deals is their loan terms. So if they're doing a bridge loan and they're planning on a refinance and their returns are including that refinance, a lot of times they'll do a bridge loan for like 2 years. I think there's a good chance that the interest rates are still going to be really high in 2 years, and you're probably not going to end up getting the return that they're promising. A lot of those syndications are starting to run into that now. They started 2 or 3 years ago. They're getting to the end of their bridge loan, and now it's like, oh crap, we've got to refinance at 9 or 10% when we thought we were going to get like 4 or 5%, and so there go your returns down the toilet. So yeah, so
What's the
definitely
alternative to a bridge loan? What's the alternative for that?
They can refinance into like conventional. They could do another bridge loan, hard money loan. Sometimes they're planning on actually selling the asset at that point, which probably isn't going to work right now. So a lot of them, I think, are starting to run into trouble. So definitely look at how the financial plan is structured right now. I mean, it's the past few years, kind of anyone has been able to be a syndicator, right? And so a lot of people just jumped in and they were like, I'm amazing at this, my property went up 25%, and now here they are, they're not doing the due diligence that they need to do, and I think a lot of people are gonna start losing money. I really like the groups that I work with. Wellings Capital is great. They're my favorite, probably. They've been doing it a long time. They work with extremely vetted operators, and they've only lost money one time, and they were very open about it, and it wasn't on the deal that I was in, but I think they've learned a lot, and so that's just my favorite of all the ones.
What was that name?
Wellings.
It was on her list.
Wellings Capital. Yeah, they're out of Virginia.
Can I recommend a book?
Investors?
What?
Sorry, I was just gonna see if they only work with accredited investors at this point.
Usually, sometimes they'll have a fund that's open for sophisticated investors. So typically you have to be accredited to invest in most syndications, but sometimes they will open them to sophisticated. So to be an accredited investor, you've got to have, I think it's $1 million in assets and 200,000 coming in income a year to be accredited.
Either or.
Yeah.
The
And then sophisticated, you just have to say you have the education to know what you're doing. So it's open to a lot more people. Yeah.
Can I recommend a book for people interested in syndications?
Yeah.
It's called The Hands-Off Investor.
I've heard of that one,
I think it's part of the bigger book, I
Yeah.
think, but it's probably the best book on syndications from the passive investor perspective.
You mentioned that in the grid syndication Zoom calls that I host. I need to write it down because there was a really great
It
note
is,
that you meant, because I had a couple people reach out to me afterwards to ask me for the name of that book, and
it's hands down the best one. There are a couple of others that are specifically oriented for the passive investors, but like they're too, technical, and that one is really good and actually goes through like how you should be vetting sponsors, how you should be reading your PPM, and all of the details.
Do you have the author on that? Do you mind sharing?
Brian-
It's off Investor by,
Brian Burke.
thank you.
And you said you'll go over that in February in your class.
Yeah.
You're gonna talk about how to vet.
Yeah.
Syndication.
Yes,
How do you find those properties?
which ones?
Like, the cabin or the other rentals that you have?
Yeah, so I got them in different ways. Some of them were on the MLS actually. Some of them I got off market. And I will forever kick myself for this, had the opportunity to buy the whole set of those duplexes in Elgin. There were maybe 15 of them. And so one was on the MLS, and I talked to the owner, and he's like, yeah, I need to offload these. But at the time, I was like, it's awful risky to buy all of my properties in one place, just in case something happens.
And now.
And so I just bought two, so I got one on market, one off market. But now, I mean, he was offering them at $165.
Jeez. What are they worth now?
Seriously?
What are they now?
Yeah, what are they worth?
Gosh, I don't know, probably $250, I would say.
Oh, so nice. I have another question.
Yeah, and then, the short-term rental shop, is a great place to partner with. It's Avery Carl, she also partnered with Bigger Pockets. She has a book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. So if you're interested in short-term rentals, it's a great book. But they have a whole short-term shop consulting business. They've got a big Facebook group. So you just take their intro class, which is free, and tell them where you want to buy a rental in one of their markets. They have realtors in all the top short-term rental markets in the US. Smokies is one of their big markets, and they will pair you with a realtor and start sending you listings and help you get your property. They do training classes on how to manage it yourself, how to get everything set up, how to find a cleaner. Like it's really amazing. So
STR shop.
yes.
And you said you were making $500 a month already on that smoky cabin, yet you don't have it on Airbnb yet. You're still working on it.
No, I do.
So you're doing both.
So I am doing a little bit of work on it. I went earlier this month and spent 3 days there doing stuff, changing out faucets and doorknobs. And,
Sure.
But yes, we put it in the rental pool right away because I knew we wanted to use that bonus depreciation, so we had to get it in service.
Got
So
it.
I've got it on Airbnb and I've got it on Vrbo.
And what did you pay for that, if you don't mind me asking?
Unfortunately, that was right at the top of the market.
Yeah.
I paid $486 for it,
Oh.
at a 6.5% interest rate.
Oh,
So yeah, I got a pretty hefty mortgage payment, but for us, I mean, you know, we're saving like $60,000 on our taxes
Right.
with it. And so I'll be able to take that money, hopefully invest it somewhere else, and then that's more money I'm having, you know, coming in based on the cabin, right? So I can add that to whatever I'm making.
What will you invest in next?
I don't know. I think the market is definitely going down, so I'm keeping an eye out to see. I've been thinking about if we both quit our W-2 jobs, getting another short-term rental next year, doing the 80% bonus depreciation and doing a Roth conversion to offset. So I could move, so if I took 100,000 bonus depreciation, I could take 100,000 out of the 401k, move it to a Roth, owe no taxes. So that's what I'm kind of toying with, whether I want to do that. So yeah, there's all sorts of interesting
Clever,
things
yeah.
you can do.
It's a little game for you.
It is. It is. I'm so mad at
You're
how
very
much
good at
money
it.
the government has taken from me.
It's also frustrating that they make it so difficult to figure all that stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, instead of just.
But the reality is they need the taxes, right? I mean,
True.
in this,
Right.
if everyone could do this
Right.
and no taxes were paid by anyone, and that's why it's so hard to figure it out.
Right.
Because they don't want people employed.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the tax code, like the first few pages are what you pay in taxes. All the rest of it is how to not pay taxes, right? It's all the loopholes and everything. So, yeah. I mean, it's set up for people who have the resources and time to figure out what they need to be doing to take advantage of everything.
Thanks for this was amazing. Can we do the bonus depreciation on like a 30-day plus
Airbnb?
No, it has to be 7 days or less. And so even if you have like a duplex and one side is long-term rental, one side is short-term rental, they take the average, and so it's not gonna count. If you live in one side and you do a short-term rental on the other side, it does count because one is your personal residence, so you don't have to average anything.
It has to be zoned as a duplex for that?
No. So if you're renting out part of your house, you might be able to do it.
Thank you so much.
Very informative, thank you.
Take a photo of her website. Oh, Rising Femme Wealth. Did you guys get that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and the cards, of course. Thank you again so much, Susan. We really appreciate having you. Thank you, ladies, and our wonderful sponsor, Amanda. We appreciate you and your space.
I'll be around, so if you guys wanted to look at anything, I'll be here.
Yeah. And Hestia for sponsoring our food tonight. Our next event is our Lunch and Learn, which we do during the day on Zoom. That is November 17th with Tracy Z and Note Investing. So please join us there. Sign up for the meetup and come join and participate. We have lots more things coming, and we're really excited to have you all here. Please send to a friend that you know needs to be in this room. We know that we need more people in this room, so please send them out. There's also a sign up out at the front. If you didn't sign up, we would just love to be able to keep in contact with you. So thank you everyone for attending. Love having you here. Did I miss anything, Vivian?
Next month we'll also be here, possibly as well as in January.
I would love that. This is a gorgeous
And then
space.
we'll try to switch venues to another showroom. Sorry, Amanda. I think it's going to be HTX Elite Construction, women-owned women-owned construction company here in Austin. So
They like us too.
they have a brand new showroom that they've asked us to host in. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Yay, that's great. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
And there's still food, so